Hey everyone, Arbor617 here with my first episode of my little quick tips that I said I'd be working on if you saw my full tutorial. So for the very first quick tip episode, I'd like to do walk cycles because this is one of the most heavily requested things I've had, and it's actually not very difficult to do once you have a little system down. Let me actually get rid of this cape. So I thought I'd just, do that first, show you how I do it. This is, of course, how I do it. So let's get started. Here's your character. I'm already in pose mode. We're going to turn on automatic keyframes for this. Start at frame 0. Sometimes it'll automatically start at frame 1. You have to manually type in, make it start at 0. I like starting at 0. Anyway, so the very first thing, okay, well actually there's two ways we're going to be able to do this. There's one way where we're going to have him shuffling in place. We're just going to move his whole thing and he'll walk along. That's kind of the more common way to do it. Sometimes though you might want to actually have him start walking, have him start going. Actually move his body and have him walk outside of his little starting bone. Have him walk away. I'm getting bad angles here. Oh my god, he broke his leg. But anyway, there's basically two different ways we're gonna do this walk cycle. One of them is the kind of shuffling in place and then moving this. The other one is having him just walk out. And the reason you might want different is, let's say if he's just walking down a road, you probably want him shuffling and then slide. But let's say he's walking kind of up terrain. He's having to kind of crawl over things. You'll probably want him to actually leave his little control cage thing or whatever that is. So let me bring him back. Anyway, starting on the first half, just having him shuffle. Let's just make, the very first thing I always do is pull his legs apart. Like so. I also noticed that he always seems to start a little bit up in the air. So let's pull his main thing down a little bit. And that's a kind of wide walk. And how wide you want it is kind of up to you. Depends on the walking. So what you want to do, you want to find the point such that it just kind of starts bending the leg. And you want to go in a little bit. So it's right there, it's kind of bending the leg. You want to go in until it bends the leg a little bit. There, that's good. We have our leg bend. And what we're going to do, we're going to go forward 12 frames. And I just simply do this by going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Also notice if you started by frame 0, it conveniently lands right on frame 12. So what we want to do on 12th frame is we want to alternate the feet. We want this foot in the back and the one in the front. And I believe if we just grab both of these feet, and down here we can hit this little copy the current pose, and we're going to go back to our frame 12. Oh, sorry. So I went back to frame 0, copied the pose at 0, went to frame 12, and now we can paste the mirror. And as you see, now it pastes it the opposite way. Then we can go back to 24, or we can go ahead to 24, and paste it the original way. So now we have that. So again, what I did, I copied the pose using this button, then I went to frame 12, pasted the mirror, then I went ahead 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 to frame 24, and then pasted the original again. So we got a little shuffle. So that's the very first thing I do. The next thing I do is with this body. We're gonna want the body to be right here at frame 0, and at frame 12, it's gonna be at the same place. If we go any more up or so, it's gonna mess that up. So we're gonna go to frame 12, press I to do location rotation or whatever. Then go to 24, same thing. Let me also turn this to. So we have these keyframes right in here at the places that our feet are, but right now they're not doing anything because it's just holding it there. So at this point, what I want to do is go to these middle points, like frame 6 and frame 18. Let's go to 6. We're going to raise the body up until it's pretty high, kind of you want it to be you want this leg to be fairly straight, but not too much. Anyway, so now you're starting to say, okay, now it's starting to look like a walk, maybe a little bit higher even. And then we can copy it as well, go to frame 18, and paste. So now you see, okay, one thing we can even do is if we make the end frame 23, we can actually start playing it back and getting a feel for how it looks. So right now he's just doing a little shuffle, but it's already looking pretty decent. But the real thing you gotta do is these feet. What you want to do when the foot is going forward, so basically at the 6, the foot which is moving forward, you want to pull up a little bit because he's lifting his foot up. Now he's raising his foot up. There you go. Maybe you can do a little bit more. And then same thing on the opposite side. This one you don't even really need to copy. This one you can just kind of, eyeball it for both. Maybe a little bit higher on this. Anyway, so now we already got like the feet working. Next thing is the arms. I always give my arms a little bit of bend. Let's turn off the auto keyframing for a second. Let's just kind of give each arm just a little bit of bending. Okay, now turn back keyframing, automatic keyframing back on. Go to the beginning, and you want the arms to be in line with the opposite leg. So if the right leg is back, we want the left arm to be back. So I hit it, I rotate around the double X, I hit rotate, and I hit XX to rotate it around its X. And now I have it so one's back and one's forward. I can grab both of these, copy, go to 12, paste mirrored, which it didn't seem like it did, copy. Oh, it might not do the mirrored because it's, because I don't know. But we can at least paste the original, I think. Yeah, it's weird, it doesn't want to seem to. Okay, but whatever, we can just eyeball these. Let's grab this, rotate it back. I'm back in the frame 12, which is in the middle point. So now we should have, there we go, boop, boop. There we go. And already, that's literally all there is to a walk. We already got like a decent walk. However, there's some things we can do a little bit better. Also, one thing I'm noticing is that the if you do everything in like straight lines, you start getting these like, you know, flickering faces. So sometimes it's helpful to kind of like, you know, slightly move some of these things to the side. Which I probably should have done that first. Kind of too late to do now. But when I first, well, I can probably move this over a little bit. Move this over a little bit. Just grab both of these. Save it. We want to make sure our we want to make sure our frame 0 is the same as our frame. There we go. And I can even paste it. There we go. Now, by doing that, we don't have the leg flickering. It's just slightly to the side. Anyway, so there's a very decent, you know, starting walk. But he's feeling a little stiff. So what I like to do is play with the head. You don't want the head just to stay, you know, like a robot. So this is where we actually need to go into the animation a little bit. Let's look at our frames, or sorry, our keyframes. And I'm just gonna move this up a little bit, or not. Anyway, and what I like to do is go to frame 0, and on all the frames where he has his feet apart, I take his head and rotate it forward just a little bit, like that. And then we're gonna take that, you know, put it here, and put it here. Looks like something messed up here. Move that back to the end. So basically I just made his head down on these lower ones, and in the middle ones, I'm going to take his head and do Alt-R, that way it centers it again, and put it back up. So now if I play, you'll see his head goes up and down as well. However, if it's perfectly in line with his walking, it looks also pretty artificial. So what I like to do then is grab that whole head thing and shift it to the right, like 2 frames. And now you'll see it kind of like goes up, comes down, and bounces. It looks a lot more natural. And if you notice at the beginning, it kind of like has a little jump, and that's because we want to take this frame, or because we moved it, there's no keyframe before this one. We need to take this. Let me actually do it like this. We want to just, there we go. We just want that keyframe over here, that way it starts out, you know, being animated. Anywho, so that's like, oh, and then I gotta end it on 23 if you want to see it loop nicely. So it's a pretty good looking walk cycle. You can change around some of like the stuff. So if you ever want to like easily alternate without having to reset all these keyframes, there's a lot of cool tricks. Let's take a look at this head. Let's turn off all these locations and stuff. I'm gonna grab 2 of these. If you hit the numpad 0, but for me I key bounded it, so I hit F. It kind of like focuses in on. You can even like, let's see. So it looks like this orange one is the one that's doing stuff. Now we'll hit F. There we go. So we can see here. This is our there's our little rotation for our head, going up, down, or whatever. You can always just, you know, isolate the one that's rotating. Grab like half of it using the box select, and you can, you know, move it down. Now I can make it so it's like going crazy. We can make it so it's like really subtle. We can make it like inverted. And you can just, you know, play around with the curves to get some different things. We'd even take this, and we could even... You'll probably, if you're doing a really nice walk cycle, you'll probably want to have the body bend a little bit as well. I didn't. Let me actually do that. I've never actually done this because I've never really needed to. Let's say, do the same thing that we do with the head. We'll move it a little bit forward on the downs. Not duplicate that. You can. The way I'm finding these downs is because I know the downs have all those little keyframes. Then we'll go right to the middle, reset it, go to this middle, reset it. And rather than having it, you know, we had the head 2 frames behind, let's have this one behind because it's below the head. And also the head's getting way too ridiculous now, so let's go back to this head thing, grab these curves, and pull it down a lot, so it's just like a very subtle. Still a little bit much, just a very subtle. Yeah, we can even take this chest and make the chest a little bit less. There we go, that looks pretty nice. And that's pretty much it for the walk cycle. That's literally all you need to do. Now what you can do is, you know, you can just grab these keyframes, duplicate them, you can see where they clearly line up, duplicate them a bunch. Then we'll move our end thing, pick a start point. Now I'm grabbing the main little control thing down below. Let's go to the end, move them. Then for this one we want to set it to linear, so we'll hit T, go to linear. That way it'll go straight from that frame to the other one. You want to just kind of watch it and see if it looks like it's going too slow. We might want to speed up a little bit if it's going too slow. And when you play it back, looks like there's a little bit of slipping with the feet, and those are things you can kind of correct later. And that's actually one of the reasons I sometimes don't do this method is because you get that kind of slipping with the feet a little bit, unless you really cleaned it up and made it nice. The way we would actually get that nice is if we went into this, as you can see. Whoa, let's turn off all this if we don't need. I assume it's yeah, so this is what's controlling the forward and backwards. So as you can see, when we make that just a little more better. There we go. When it's going back, okay, so this upwards curve is the foot, you know, going backwards. And if this thing is moving linearly, then this should also be moving linearly. But because we have in this curve, you kind of get this little bit of like slide, then it looks nice, then it slides again. We can actually, I believe we can just do something like this. It'll fix the slipping a little bit. Now it'll, oh yeah, see, yeah, now it looks better, but we can tell that our thing's moving. Let's do the same thing with this one. Let's take this, and for this one it's going to be this side. So what I'm doing is making it so as the foot moves back, it's completely linear. And now we can see that it's moving too fast. So let's go to this last one and pull it back a little bit. It looks pretty good. We fixed the slipping using the little curves on the feet. I know I'm going pretty fast for this, but I'm also going a little bit more detailed than I usually go. My actual characters usually aren't even that, you know, involved. So that's basically the first method of doing things using like this thing. And you can even you know, like curve it around a little bit, have them go off in different directions, and nobody really notices if there's a little bit of slipping. You know, even if you kind of walk, no one really notices if it's not 100% perfect or whatever. Anyway, boom, that's the first. Let's delete all of this. We're gonna completely start all over. Hit A, grab everything, Alt R, Alt G. I shouldn't have done that. Now we'll delete all those keyframes. There we go. I had auto keyframe on. Anyway, that's the first method. The second method is, of course, where he goes walking off out of the, you know, thing. And this is the one I actually almost find easier. We start out exactly the same. You know, we have these things apart. Pull this thing down until it's, you know, close, and pull these in so they just curve or bend or whatever. So basically I start with, oh, okay, I wasn't at frame 0, so I'm trying to move all these to around frame 0. There we go. Very similar to what we just did, except this time, rather than shuffling, we're going to grab this foot, go to frame 12, and we're gonna pull it a little bit. Sorry, never mind. Actually, what I do is I grab this thing next. So we have this pose. I go to frame 12, and the first thing I do, I grab this main bone body thing, and I pull it just to where this leg, right before it bends. Then once I have it there, then I take this foot, pull it forward to right before it bends. Same thing. Now I'm going to take this foot, set a keyframe on it, and then after, you want to set the keyframe on this first so it stays there at that frame. Then go back up to this bone, go to frame 24, move ahead right before that one bends. Got the keyframe now. Take this, move it ahead to before it bends, take the foot, other foot now, keyframe it, take the body, go to 30, whatever, it's 36 now. Go forward right before that leg bends, before that one does a little bend. Take this foot, pull it forward. And as you see, now we have a walking where he goes forward. And there's a little bit of snapping with his, you see his little foot kind of snap. And you can always kind of fix that by not having go out quite so much. Maybe not, don't be so extreme with when you pull this forward, rather than making it just to where it like snaps, pull it in a little bit more. Yeah, now we kind of messed it up a little bit, but you kind of get the picture. You just want to be, it requires a little more kind of cleaning up and stuff, but it's the same kind of thing. Then you go to the middles, you know, you pull it up, go to the middle, pull it up, go to the middles, pull it up. Then the foot that's going forward, you want to, you know, raise up at the 6. Take this foot and raise it up there. And the same thing with the arms. So 4. I'm not even going to bend this one now because you get the idea. Yeah, and the arms are the ones we can actually just duplicate over and over, whereas the rest we kind of have to do manually. So take those, grab them, duplicate them. As you see, we're doing the same thing, but now he's kind of walking off, and this is sometimes a little more handy. It does require a little bit of cleaning up if you don't get, you know, things perfect. What's really nice is the feet are completely stationary, and you can have things like, rather than just walking forward, and we can take him maybe like he steps up onto something. Yeah, sometimes if you get these feet that kind of snap, you gotta like rotate the foot itself. Just kind of playing around. I'm just showing you, this is kind of the reason for why you'd use this method opposed to the other. Sometimes when you're doing these kind of more complicated walking, like that, moving around a lot more. So now pretend, maybe imagine there's like an invisible block here. Why is it always snapping? There we go. So now he kind of, you know, he's walking along, then he steps up, puts his foot up, climbs up, and if you actually were doing this, you know, real, you'd have him like right here, you'd kind of lean forward, reset that, so then he kind of goes, leans forward, and then goes back up. So, you know, that's kind of the alternate. Turns out this beep's really messed up, and you always scale this apart, of course. And you know, you get the idea. Maybe not quite so extreme. So, this is about walk cycles, not walking up blocks. So, I think that's a good enough start. That's pretty much everything I do for my walk cycle. Everything's in 12s. You can always, if you want your character to walk slower, you know, you can always take all this stuff, slow it down using the scale key, make him walk slower, play around with it. But it's pretty easy, it's pretty systematic. I'm going to cut it at that. I'm going to try to keep these episodes short as possible. This one got a little bit longer just because walking's kind of big, and I know it's something that people wanted a lot. So I hope you learned something. Again, this is just my kind of systematic route of doing it. There's, of course, you can do things a little bit more. You can have him, you know, like bend his hip, especially if you're doing like a female. You might want a little bit of like hip bending. I usually don't really do that too much because it's Minecraft anyway, after all, and you know, it looks fine as long as you have a little bit of kind of movement overall. You can play around with stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching, and oh, and if you want more